So we're going to listen to an audio clip by George Tonks in an interview conducted by Lisa Noelle Voldeng. And this was posted on her Substack several days ago. I made another post about this and presented a clip in that interview. And I just want you to listen to this. It centers around mummies. Okay? And then we'll be back. I want to say warning, disturbing content.
But the apartment would sometimes smell because of the mummies. Which when I look back on that,
Mummies.
That's kind of odd that the mummies would smell.
That is odd because the preservation techniques on the mummies, that after thousands of years there wouldn't be a smell like
A smell, exactly. And then not that long ago I was researching the collection that Alan had because it was so hard for me to find anything about the collection. And I had even contacted the Art Institute because there was a big show that Leslie Wexner went to, and they claimed that they did not have any information. But I did find information about the collection, and it talks about the pots that were actually in the collection were actually pots where they kept the internal organs from the mummies. And I had posted that on my Instagram account and my Twitter account for people to see.
Were the mummies
Listen.
encased? Were you looking at the mummies just with the wrappings, or were they were encased?
They had one that was undone, a small mummy of a boy. Okay, that was actually, the case was open. And then they had larger cases of mummies, larger mummies that were sealed.
Listen.
And did they ever talk about whether the cases were opened at all, or did they talk about preservation? Did they ever talk about mummies?
No, they would just use the collection to show everyone and try to impress everyone. And at the time, I was not really I knew nothing about the jewelry collection, but I do remember Leslie Wexner pulling out a book of King Tut's tomb, a book about King Tut's tomb, and showed me where there was a piece of King Tut's chair that was in the collection that was published in the book, where you could see where the piece was missing off the chair. And they had it in the display case. And then when I sent a message to Juliet, who's an Epstein survivor, she says that is very strange because in New Mexico or something like that,
New Mexico.
thought that there was something going on. So she says that's very creepy when it comes to the mummies.
Speaking of New Mexico, they are reopening the inquiry into Epstein's ranch amid pressure campaign. Pressure from people like us who are sharing this information, who are spreading this information. We are making a difference. We matter. We matter. We are the pressure. This was just 3 days ago. New Mexico will reopen its investigation into Jeffrey Epstein's Zorro Ranch in the state after a public pressure campaign for a fuller accounting of the role the location played in the late financier's sex trafficking conspiracy. The New Mexico Department of Justice's announcement came less than 2 weeks after The Guardian reported that federal agents did not appear to have ever searched Zorro Ranch. New Mexico's Department of Justice said at the time that it was working with lawmakers on launching something it styled as a truth commission. That commission was given the green light several days ago. Upon reviewing information recently released by the U.S. Department of Justice, Attorney General Raul Torres had ordered that the criminal investigation into allegations of illegal activity at Jeffrey Epstein's Zorro Ranch be reopened. Earlier this week, the New Mexico State Legislature approved the formation of an Epstein Truth Commission to examine what had taken place at the 7,560-acre ranch, which was never searched at the time. It is charged with filing a full report by the end of the year. Pause and read. I want to remind everybody of this particular file. I posted about this weeks ago, about a man named Eddie Aragon who had received information regarding 2 foreign girls that were alleged to have been buried at Zorro Ranch. Okay, I'm going to show you the file. This is the file. This is the information that Eddie Aragon received that he then forwarded on. You can pause and read below. And this is the file that contains the following FBI report. And I highly advise you pause and read this. And this is the second page showing that the enclosures Aragon gave to them included the email received by him. Now, do you think that what George said about New Mexico has any bearing or connection to what I just showed you? I don't know. But sometimes all it takes is you hearing 2 words from somebody directly to make a connection. And it seems like a pretty substantial connection if it pans out to be true. And knowing that they are reopening this investigation is highly encouraging. The pressure campaign is from us, guys. We are doing this collectively because we're not gonna fucking give up. We're not gonna forget about this shit. It's inexcusable. It will not stand. We will not live under these fucking deplorable human beings anymore. We all deserve better. The children deserve better. And if we don't lead by example and continue to share and continue to call this out, what are our fucking kids going to think of us in 20 years when nothing came of it? Because we got too apathetic. And it's just too much for us to hear. It's too much to bear. No, it's time to stand and listen and pay attention. I know it's not comfortable. It's awful shit. But who is going to listen and share it if we aren't? Who's going to do it? The mainstream media? Have you seen them reporting on any of these in-depth type files like we are? I haven't. I may have missed it. Probably not. The interesting thing I'm going to point out, there's always going to be people who are going to try to get the message deflected. There's always going to be people that discourage you from saying what you have to say. That's a given. The people in my last video who were saying that George is a grifter, a pathological liar, I don't know anything about George, okay? But I find it interesting that if he is a grifter and he is trying to make it so that authentic survivors, that it blurs the line, right? That he's doing this to confuse between an authentic survivor and someone who's just in it to make things up and grift. Why would Maria Farmer's artwork say this at the bottom? Visual poetry for my bestie, George B. Tonks. Now maybe at one point they were friends and now they're not. I don't know that. But I know in one of the other pieces of work that is shown on Lisa Noelle Voldeng's Substack page regarding this interview with George Tonks, there are these women standing around this cauldron with people's names on heads that says victim stew, and look at the name on that person's head. I mean, this is Maria Farmer's artwork, right? I don't know anything about their relationship. I don't know anything about these individuals on a personal level. I'm just showing you what's there to see. I'm showing you what's there that's been presented to the public. And the fact that this is being reopened in New Mexico, I think is highly encouraging. And this is why we have to keep speaking out. This is why we have to keep listening to these people who are telling us their stories, because they matter. They matter. If there are people at that ranch who have yet to be unearthed, we all owe it to them to keep speaking so that they might have justice, even though they no longer have breath. We all deserve that. They deserve that. Peace out.